Q&A. Ketan, do we have
Yes.
some nice
Yes,
questions?
we have a lot of questions coming in, Guus. Let's start with the first one. What other products are in the market other than Azure?
So of course there's a lot of many different projects. What's nice about Azure is that it's actually Azure DevOps is actually not a product. It's more like a platform, and it has many different capabilities. So for the backlog management part, there is the boards capability, which is similar to the ServiceNow Agile capability. Then there's the repos capability in Azure, which is a Git. Which can be also GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket if you prefer. So you can choose your own tool there. So that's another replacement for Azure repos. Then there is the pipelines, the orchestration bit, and there's also, well, there's many different tools out there. The most popular ones at the moment, I think, are Jenkins and probably Azure DevOps. But I think what we see globally, there is a shift towards Azure DevOps, as Jenkins was, well, they kind of broke the ground for these type of toolings, but it's an open source tool, and if you're looking on an enterprise level, then typically these more scalable things like Azure DevOps seem to be a more popular choice. And then, I think those are the main tools that we touched upon. So those could be alternatives,
Yeah, okay. Just on that. So maybe as far as Azure DevOps is concerned, Microsoft is investing, a lot of money on it, and we see big corporates adopting Azure DevOps. But it is important when you choose a tool that you first do a good analysis of your landscape, right? So as who said, there are many tools out there, but make sure that they speak to your application landscape.
Yeah.
Okay. Second question. Please demo some reports that we can use at an executive and senior level management to show status and progress for the epics.
Right. I think it's a good point. I don't have that actually set up in this demo, but I'm happy to reach out there on a separate moment. But there are, of course, but you can think along the lines of it kind of depends on the strategy component that you're using. If you're, for example, using a portfolio management, you can actually track your epics as part of your projects, and this is also what we did for Sassel. And then you can actually monitor the progress of your epics within your projects, and then also monitor the progress of your projects from a portfolio level. And you can define which projects contribute to which goals and which strategies. And you can actually, for example, show in terms of story points, how much points do we invest into strategy A or strategy B, but also have a bigger dependency views of the different epics to each other. That's actually something I could show very quickly. Is we have in this agile board, if we look back on the program level, we also have this planning view. And if I believe sales enablement, we can see, for example, that here there's a bunch of sprints with stories in there. You can track the progress, and you can also, if there's any dependencies there, so here's dependency. We can see that in fact the add countdown seems to be dependent on the ability to connect with suppliers, and it's also flagged as red because this deliverable is scheduled later than this one, so that might cause some issues. So those type of things are things that you can think about. So I hope that answers the question a bit.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Third question. What would be the key KPIs to report on an exec and senior management level?
Yeah. So I think that's a little bit similar to the question we just answered. It's one of the things could, for example, be the velocity of different teams or the amount of waiting time. So Of course, you can, and there's also new capabilities coming up in ServiceNow. We're really looking forward to that. Is that you are able to visualize your end-to-end flow and the timing of those different steps. So you can visualize how much time of your value chain is spent actually doing stuff and spent waiting. And of course, you want to reduce that time waiting. And if you can make that insightful to, for example, put those as metrics on different products or different teams, you can also see which team is performing better in that sense, and what it could be that teams can learn from each other in that sense, for example. And maybe, yeah.
Other question: what kind of application attributes would you feed into the ServiceNow CMDB through the S2 interface?
Yeah, Azure DevOps interface. Yeah. Well, what we have at the moment already, there's a lot of things. So we register which artifacts, which packages are being built. Of course, we deploy that to a certain server. In this case, we had servers which are just running and we just deploy stuff to them. But it could be, for example, the case that you actually you spin up a new QA environment every time you want to do tests, and all that information, of course, goes into the CMDB. Besides that, of course, there is the change history. So knowing which changes happened and whether they resulted in failures or whether they went successful or not is very valuable information to capture in your CMDB. So maybe I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. We may have mentioned this, but it's still a question. What agile methodology have Cecil implemented and why? Lean, Scrum, Safe?
I think this one's for you, Bramley.
Yeah, so thanks for that question. So we're more Scrum, although some of us are experimenting on Safe. So from a Lean standpoint, it really just made a sense to us, and it was easy to adopt some of the current processes.
Okay, great. Another question: where are people? What is the impact on people, employees in all of these of closing the gap between business development and operational processes?
Yeah, I think this is also maybe one, Bramley, do you think that's from your experience, how you can, that you can answer this?
I didn't get this one.
So yeah. So what about the people? So I think, well, what's an
yeah. So no, I get it. So it's a very important question, but quite big. I just need to be careful how I answer this one. But if it really speaks about change management, maybe I should just say this. So we transforming the organization to be a leaner, more agile ways of working. Obviously, from people perspective, it means that we need to get trained. I think training will be one of the key things that you're looking at. And in our case, it's also a special thing because we also have naturally a siloed type of setup where the operations are actually done by outside vendors. So those are some of the things that I think from change management perspective, you have to focus a lot of time on that. But I was essentially say, training very key, and we're investing a lot on training. Recently, the team is spending a lot of time, especially the architecture team, on understanding the cloud. So we are taking our people along the journey with us.
Okay. Still 3 more questions to go. So how do you create visibility between business stakeholders, requesters, and IT?
I also proposed an answer for that already in the chat. I think this was by Adil, right? So if you do all these data capturings in the ServiceNow platform, understanding what's taking place and what is being deployed, you can actually you can actually include that information in information messages or in knowledge articles that you can then also publish via the ServiceNow website. So you can make as, let's say, as static information that people can look up after the fact, that kind of release information. You can also push that information out to a targeted audience if you want. That also can be done when you allow people to subscribe, for example, to receive certain updates. So those are the things that you could think of in terms of promoting that. Guus, anything?
Yeah, I think actually one of the things that I've seen being a big success at a couple of customers of ours is actually doing those sprint reviews. So actually with different teams, and it can also be on a larger scale, of course, that you have a cadence of every 2 weeks or every month, that you have a live show and tell where people just show off the stuff that they have been doing and making that value visible. And then also that's already a platform to already bring those people closer together already. So it's not very much ServiceNow related, but it is very powerful thing to do, I would say.
Okay, great. There was another question. How do you visualize the delivered value?
Well, that's an interesting one. How do you visualize value to begin with? Yeah, I think it's part of Agile is describing the things you want from a value perspective. So rather than actually describing, I want to have this button, you describe the purpose of having that button. So if you adopt that and you embrace that, and you really describe all the stuff that you're doing from a value perspective, you can just actually show all the epics, for example, that are being delivered, and summarize that value, and you can publish that for your entire organization to see, and what are at this moment the types of value we are delivering. And you can also get instant feedback from that if you use that engagement layer, for example, that ServiceNow provides.
Okay, thanks. Another question: what monitoring tools did we use during the whole process?
All right, so that's a more technical question at this moment, actually. So Azure DevOps, your Azure Cloud Platform has some possibilities of sending monitoring information. There's of course many other systems. In fact, you can all connect all those different systems. You connect them to ServiceNow and also use that place to gather all your information and provide that single pane of glass.
Okay, thanks.
But yeah.
Question to Sasol: how difficult was it to address the silos in the organization, and what steps did you take to address them?
Nice one.
Yes, that's a nice question. I probably don't have the right answer in that we are still on the journey, and I think you should appreciate that for organization as big as Sasol, you have to do this in phases. And I think, having a new structure that is built around Agile in mind, that will actually help us to, deliver on the goal of, DevOps, where those silos don't exist. And I will share the information as time goes. So the next question may be Elma and Jose, you should take that one. That's coming from my boss.
Nice. Maybe just to add to your previous question, I think what can be a key enabler in busting those silos, because of course there's this very strong culture aspect, and the least thing we can do, and one of the easiest thing we can do, is actually taking away the technical barriers. So by ensuring that the different organizational worlds, at least on a technical level, don't have barriers, will make it easier for them to actually grow closer together and maybe merge at some point. So that's, I think, from IT perspective, that's more or less the part that we can do most in. Yeah, that's what I like to focus on.
Yeah, maybe
and then
maybe take it up and to go into that last question indeed about that structuring yourself around continuous improvement. It is, I think, a very interesting, let's say, thing that we are seeing with a lot of our customers, that they are actually getting more successful at that. I think DevOps in itself is, of course, with all the rituals and doing, as Guus already said, the demos and the retrospectives, it's already from a methodology point of view, it is fostering continuous improvement. What we're also seeing that if you also look at the way that ServiceNow is being used in that area, they're actually also deploying a lot of additional features that actually also allow customers to more proactively drive continuous improvement. So there's actually a module called Continuous Improvement Management. It can actually be used to track down the actions or tasks that you need to do in order to improve and to meet your KPIs and to grow as an organization. So it's really also from a platform perspective supporting that concept.
Yes, and I think if I just can add to that, if we look at the theory of DevOps and the books and the best practices, I think this continuous improvement, one of the most powerful enablers of that is fast feedback loops. So getting your information fed back to providing that feedback instantly, and that's really something that by having your entire tool chain connected and having that flow of work as a seamless single flow, in fact, that really allows you to provide that super fast feedback. And you can also, for example, if you show to your customers what the stuff is that you're working on, and you enable them to respond to that, you can also get feedbacks on the priorities and stuff like that. And well, be aware that some things might not be adding value before you put a lot of time into it, for example.
Okay. I still got a question from the chat. What is the most valuable lessons learned you encountered during implementation?
Yes, well, that's an almost impossible question to answer. There's many, of course, valuable lessons. Yeah, that's a difficult one. Well,
So,
okay.
So maybe I can help you there, right? So, yeah. I mean, in our case, it's a very simple thing, because we almost think that tools can fix our problems, and it's not really about the tools. You know, it's about the people. First is about the processes, and given the legacy, you know, you look at when we implemented ITSM was probably 6 years ago. And about a year ago, we implemented portfolio, you know, management. And recently, we are transforming ourselves to be more, you know, portfolio-based type of organization. So all of those, you have to, you know, drive it with the process, and you realize that the implementations that happen just before the change, there are probably a lot of technical debts there. So I would think really maybe the biggest challenge will be around you know the processes and making sure that technology is aligned and supporting the process.
Okay, thanks. So we will stop with the questions because we need to go on. We will answer all those questions in a one-on-one email after this webinar. So Guus, can you do the closing?
Yes, exactly. And just also to point out, and we had some pre-submitted questions as well. Hopefully we already answered them in the questions that we just answered. If not, we'll follow on email as well. But if you still feel like you're missing someone, feel free to reach out, ask your questions, and we're happy to help. Also to point out, we are aware, just like Wemley just mentioned, DevOps is not just implementing a couple of tools. In fact, a transformation towards DevOps is an entire journey. And I just want to point out that we have a lot of services that we can actually essentially help you along any point of your journey towards DevOps goal. And one new thing that we are setting up at the moment, and please let me know if you're interested in that, is actually setting up CI/CD for ServiceNow. So managing your ServiceNow delivery of your ServiceNow changes through CI/CD pipeline. So